And now I want to welcome our next group of leaders, incredible leaders who are going to be speaking to us about building a healthy and thriving future, food sovereignty. And thank you all for your essential work and leadership in this field. In many regions globally, women farmers feed the world and are central stewards of seeds and agricultural biodiversity. They hold vast knowledge and skill gleaned through their traditional roles as healers, cultural shapers, and caretakers of water and land. Around the world, women in all of their diversity are securing and growing food and medicinal herbs for their communities and supporting a sustainable path forward towards community resiliency during cascading crises of climate and colonization. And through their effort, they are working to preserve and propagate plant knowledge and developing community and local economies by returning to adaptive practices rooted in land and seed knowledge as we learn to navigate this time. I have the honor of introducing these remarkable leaders, and this will be the order that they're speaking in, and we're just so glad to have you here. Thank you for taking time with us. We're going to be hearing from Kahea Pacheco, who is Kanaka Ōiwi, and she is the co-executive director of Women's Earth Alliance, and she's from Hawaii. Then we'll be hearing from Mariann Bassey, Orovwuje. She is deputy executive director of ERA, Friends of the Earth Nigeria, and coordinator Food Sovereignty Program, Friends of the Earth Nigeria and Africa. Then we'll be hearing from Monique Verdin from the Houma Nation, and we're very glad to have her as our WECAN Food Sovereignty Program Coordinator in the Gulf South from Turtle Island and the USA. Then we'll be hearing from Yasso Kanti Bhattachan, who is Thakali. She is Vice Chair of the National Indigenous Women's Forum and founding member and advisor of the National Indigenous Women's Federation from Nepal. And then we will be hearing from Wilma Mendoza, who is Mosetén. She is the president of the National Confederation of Indigenous Women of Bolivia. So this is an incredible lineup of amazing leaders, and we're so honored to have you here. And with that, I'd love to hand the floor over to you, Kahea. Welcome.
Aloha mai, aloha aina kako, o Kahea Pacheco ko uinoa no punamaiao makamokopuni o Hawaii. Hello, everyone. As Osprey shared, my name is Kahea Pacheco. I am Kanaka Wahine, a Native Hawaiian woman, and I'm a co-executive director at Women's Earth Alliance. I'm joining you today from the District of Puna on the eastern side of the island of Hawaii, which are my home territories. And I am so honored to be here in this powerful assembly and with this incredible group of leaders, organizers, and movement builders. And thank you, Osprey, and the entire WECAN team, as always, for all you do. So we're gathering at a time when our world is being reshaped by fear and violence, climate disruptions, food insecurity, and the unraveling of systems that were never designed for us to begin with. But, you know, in the face of this, I believe deeply that the solutions we need already exist. They exist in our communities. They exist in the leadership of women, as that amazing video we just saw shared. And they exist in the seeds we choose to plant, both in the ground and in our movements and our communities. At Women's Earth Alliance, we work at the intersection of climate, gender, and grassroots leadership. So since 2006, we've partnered with more than 53,000 women leaders across 31 countries, reaching over 24 million people with community-based, life-saving, environmental and climate solutions. And food has always been at the heart of this work. For years, we've stood alongside seed savers, food justice activists, indigenous knowledge keepers, and traditional farmers who understand that food is not just nourishment. It's memory, it's culture, it's resistance, and it's power. And when grassroots women are at the helm of our foodways, food becomes medicine for healing and agency. Our lands become, once again, our relatives and a place of regeneration and not exploitation. and communities begin to shift socially, economically, environmentally. And this is not a footnote in our larger movement for climate justice. It's a cornerstone, because we're not going to solve the climate crisis without transforming how we grow, how we share, and how we protect food. And we're not going to transform our food systems without women's leadership at the center of it. So I wanted to share just a couple of examples of what this has looked like in practice for Women's Earth Alliance. In Guerrero, Mexico, where communities are experiencing rising ocean temperatures and overfishing, WEA is partnering with Afro Caracolas, a collective of Afro-descendant fisherwomen, to launch a community-led tilapia aquaculture farm. And after months of securing land, mastering aquaculture techniques, monitoring water quality, and building critical infrastructure, this farm is now providing a sustainable food source for the community, creating new economic opportunities for local women, and reducing pressure on already stressed marine ecosystems. Because this is about food and, like all things, so much more. This farm is a site of power building. It's equipping Afro-Mexican women to play a bigger role in shaping local food systems, the local economy, and environmental decision-making. One of the leaders from Afro Caracolas told us, creating our own food source, not only for nourishment, but also for economic autonomy, and doing so in a way that commits to sustainability, is exactly what we need today to truly confront climate change. And that's the kind of change that women-led food sovereignty makes possible. We see it in the United States as well. When my friend Beth Roach, a member of the Nottoway Tribe of Virginia, joined Women's Earth Alliance's US Grassroots Accelerator in 2019, her vision was to grow the Alliance of Native Seed Keepers, an organization she co-founded to preserve and share Indigenous seeds. And through this work, Beth and the Alliance aren't only safeguarding seeds, they are reviving songs and stories and growing methods and entire foodways that colonization tried to erase. Some of these seeds hadn't been grown in generations. Some of the seeds were gifted by elders who said, "I never thought I'd see this corn again." And with the tools and networks Beth gained during the program, she expanded the Alliance's online seed store, helping it reach more people, while continuing to distribute ceremonial and medicinal seeds freely. And then the pandemic hit, and Beth saw the impacts of the lack of food sovereignty in our Indigenous communities increase tenfold. And she thought, we need to grow more food. So she and her team jumped into action, sending Indigenous seed packets across the country to support home gardens and communities' food sovereignty efforts. Because, as Beth said, every time we send a seed out, we send love with it. And what's more hopeful than a seed that brings medicine and healing to us? And these women, Beth and the leaders of Afro Caracolas and so many others in our global network, they're leading by example. They already know what needs to be done. Because again, when food systems are rooted in the leadership of grassroots women, of Indigenous women, we grow more than just food. We grow sovereignty and resilience and thriving futures. So the question for us isn't whether women can lead this transformation. It's whether institutions, funders, and even our movements will follow the wisdom that we already know works. And our work, our collective work, all of our work, is to keep showing them, to keep planting and teaching and protecting and feeding and organizing, and remembering too. Remembering that every seed we save, every system we imagine, every meal we provide our families, that's the future we're working towards. So that's what I wanted to share today. Mahalo nui and aloha aina kako.
Thank you so much, Kahea, for those great words of wisdom. And I really love how you're really sharing with us. We've experienced also in our own work how, when we talk about food sovereignty and food security, it's such a broader conversation. It's about the food, but it's about culture and how we're living in community. And I really appreciated your pointing that out. And thank you for the beautiful work that you do at WEA. And we have put information in the chat about WEA and the beautiful work that the Women's Earth Alliance is doing. Thank you so much. And with that, I'd love to hand the floor to Mariann. Mariann?
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you very well and see you very well.
Thank you. My name is Mariann Bassey. I'm from Environmental Rights Action, Friends of the Earth Nigeria. I'm the Deputy Executive Director. I also coordinate the Food Sovereignty Program for Nigeria and also for Friends of the Earth Africa. And I currently also coordinate the Land Working Group for our Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, the biggest food network in the region. First of all, I want to say greetings to all my sisters here and allies. I am happy to be here, surrounded by such incredible power, extraordinary strength, brilliance, wisdom. My God, grace and leadership. When women unite, we spark each other's light, and together we move mountains, catalyze action, shape the future, and drive real transformative change. No wonder to say, when women gather, the world shifts a little and change happens. Now to my discourse today. Food is life. Food is dignity. Food is power. One of my mentors, Dr. Vandana Shiva, said, and I verily believe her 100%, he who controls your food controls your society, and he who controls your seeds controls life on earth. Thomas Sankara said, those who feed you control you. Food sovereignty means power, the power of choice in the hands of the people. Our local food is more than just nourishment. It's a vessel of history. It's community bonding and indigenous knowledge passed down from one generation to another. Preserving this heritage is an urgent necessity. Our children deserve to inherit a rich food tradition that promotes healthy pride and cultural continuity. We are what we eat, as we say in Nigeria. And in our campaigns, we say, what you eat must not eat you. If you come, for instance, to Nigeria and I say, I want to eat Edikaikong soup, immediately you know that I'm from the south of this country. If I say I want to eat tuwo, you know I'm from the north. If I want to say I want to eat banga, you know I'm from the Niger Delta area, Delta State. If you say I want egusi, you immediately, or iwo, you know I'm from the west. Food is very important. It plays a critical role in our lives, from birth to death, marriages, just name it. So anything that threatens our food threatens the very fabric of our existence. If somebody or people or corporations or people decides to contaminate the food we eat, it's not just about a campaign, it's about a whole generation of our culture being wiped out. That is, for us, it's a battle for the survival of our food, of our seeds, of the knowledge handed down to us from our grandmothers, from our aunties, from generation onto generation. However, this knowledge, we know as it is being threatened. There is a systematic infiltration targeted at our local crops, staples, diets, which undermine the cultural value of our indigenous diets and risk creating a generational disconnection from our food roots, which invariably threatens our food sovereignty. If you remember during COVID, it was predicted that Africans are going to die like droves. Somebody said it from way power, somebody way powerful said Africans are going, well, we didn't die because our food was medicine. The medicine was in the food. We had the least casualties in Africa. That is what food is healthy, when food is eaten in the right proportion with respect, the way we know it, it nourishes us and it also medicines to our soul. But today, this food that we know is being threatened by the powers that be. Isn't it strange? In a world of abundance, too many of our people go to bed hungry. People face hunger, malnutrition, toxic food environments, ecological collapse. My father, Comrade Nimo Bassey, paints this picture aptly in his poem, Mountains of Food, Oceans of Hunger. This is not an accident. Our food systems are threatened. It is corporately controlled, profit-driven, extractives, and it is harming our people, our planet, and our health. It's painful to note that our small-scale farmers are still the first victims of this industrial model of productions. Sad that the ones producing food can hardly live from the land anymore in our societies. At this point, and as we prepare to go to the pathway to COP30 and beyond, we want to make this abundantly clear and say it loud to the corporations and multinational companies. You cannot tell our stories. You cannot tell our narratives without us in the room. Enough is enough. We will not back down. We will not be silenced. We will not look away. We are here. We are rising, and we are bringing the change, and we'll tell our stories. We cannot allow the retrogressive messaging of industrial corporate bodies, agencies, and their local actors to continue unchallenged. We cannot continue to make chemical giants happy at our expense. It's time to advance common sense approach, which is food sovereignty. Well, it's not all doom from me. There is hope. The hope, a transformative solution exists. I'm not calling it alternative. I don't really like it when we say looking for alternative. There's not. This is the real deal. Food sovereignty to the rescue. This is how we will build healthy and thriving futures. It's the right, as we know, the right of our peoples, of communities to define their own food systems. It's about who controls land, seeds, food, and knowledge. It's about local control, not corporate control, not corporate control. It's about respect for the people who produce the food. 70% of the food we eat in this world is produced by small-scale farmers. It's about growing food in ways that nourish people and the planet. Agroecology, biodiversity, and it's about respect, respect for our people, respect for our food. Do not poison my food. Do not tell me what to eat. It's about respect. It puts women, indigenous peoples, small-scale farmers, and communities at the center, not corporations, not corporations, not corporations. Why does this matter so urgently? Because the industrial food system is driving climate change, biodiversity collapse, land grabbing, unhealthy, toxic diets. Without food sovereignty, there can be no food justice. Without food sovereignty, there can be no climate justice. Without food sovereignty, there can be no health justice. Women grow more than 50% of the world's food. Women are the true seed savers, the knowledge holders, the custodians of our biodiversity. Yet, too often, women are denied land, excluded from decision-making, marginalized in policies. I want to say it clear. Building food sovereignty is a feminist work. It means dismantling the patriarchal and corporate power structures in food systems. Women must be in the front, at the back, and at the center in this struggle. So what must we do, even as we prepare to go to Brazil for COP30 and also for the 3rd Yeleni Forum in September in Sri Lanka? We must reclaim our local food systems from seed to plate, defend women's land rights, no land, no food sovereignty, resist corporate capture of our food, land, seeds, and governance, promote agroecology for health, resilience, and life, build strong alliances across women's movements, indigenous movements, farmers' movements, youth, and urban communities. As I begin to round up, I want to say this is the vision that we have. Food sovereignty is not just a dream. No, it is not a dream. It has been built and we're still building. It is built right now by women, farmers, and indigenous people across the world. It's a radical, hopeful vision for food systems that nourishes our bodies, our cultures, and our planets. A thriving food system is not only possible, a thriving food system is not only, it is urgent. And as women, we must lead boldly. We are not guests at these tables of power. No, we are not. We are here to reshape them. And together, we will build a healthy, thriving future rooted in food sovereignty. We are here. We are many. We are ready. And we cannot be stopped. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariann. Yes, so agree with you. We cannot be stopped. And thank you for your beautiful leadership and your work. And I also really love that you highlighted that these food systems you're talking about are not alternative food systems. They are the food system. The other corporate system and big agribusiness, that should be the alternative that didn't work. And I'm 100% with you there. And really, thank you for pointing that out. And the need that the rights to food, the rights to seed, the right to have land for growing food is core to how we're going to navigate the climate crisis. And I love everything that you said. And we so agree with the analysis that, again, it's about the system change. Even the United Nations has stated that when we look at food systems, that the small scale farming of organic farming actually is doing better than these big agribusiness operations. We know that, but now we need to move these powers that be out of the way so people can get on with the work at hand. So thank you for that. And I would like to now introduce Monique Verdin from the Houma Nation. But before she speaks, we're going to show a short video and then hand the floor to her. Thank you.
Apologies, Osprey. I need to come in. We're having some heat wave related technical issues for one of our logistical leads. So I just wanted to let you know that in the back end for the video playing and a recognition of all the different elements that we're all in right now.
Oh, thank you. And sorry to hear that. So does that mean we should not show the video?
Maybe we can show it right after, Monique,
Okay.
if that's okay.
All right. Great. And in fact, Monique, if it's all right with you, we just found out of another technical issue, which is that Wilma Mendoza is having some issues with her technology. So maybe she could talk next if that's all right with the other speakers, because we're not sure how long we're going to have her. So Wilma, if you're ready, we'd love to have you go forward. Thank you. You have the floor, Wilma.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hello to everybody. And it's a pleasure to be here to speak about this very important topic. As women, we are the ones who plant seeds and the guardians of knowledge. Personally, and as an Indigenous woman, for us, food security is a right. It has to do with women's rights and the rights of Indigenous people specifically. And so for Indigenous women specifically, and for most Indigenous people, food security is part of, it's something that belongs to us. It's our own. It has to do with food security is what you sow, what you protect, what you take care of, what you nourish, right? And so for us, it's very much what you sow and what you also gather, what you harvest in your own territory, in our territory. And it's what we do, it's what we protect. That's what food security is to us. Food insecurity occurs when we end up in urban spaces, in cities, in places where we don't know where the food that we eat is coming from. And So food sovereignty has a lot to do with policies. When we talk about food sovereignty, it has to do with the implementation of adequate development on the part of Indigenous peoples in a framework of respect. Respect for one another, respect for nature. And that is something that's lacking today. And we are doing advocacy in order to protect our territories and to maintain our territories in a way that is sustainable, balanced, and reciprocal. That's something that's very important for us. And food security has to do with this, with what you sow, what you protect, what you care for, and then what you can serve to your family and community. And so it also has to do with what you protect within your own territory. Because we have to respect the rights of Mother Nature. And we always say there's a reciprocal or a mutual relationship with the world of flora, the plant life that is around us. That's why we also serve that plant life and we try to strike a balance with it. We're very thankful for the resources. We have the water. The wind is important for propagating seeds. And it has a lot to do with the light of the sun as well. Sunlight is essential. And sadly, today, because of the climate crisis, the climate emergency that we're living through, all of our practices are being weakened and our rights are being weakened. And also, it leads us to live in a way that's out of sync with Mother Nature. And the insecurity around food is a problem. In Bolivia, for example, we are seeing a lot of forest loss due to wildfires. And that happens when people come into the territories and damage them. And it really has a huge impact on seeds themselves, on our animals, and it causes a rupture in the equilibrium that we have with Mother Nature and our surroundings. So as women, we are calling for our authorities to listen to us. We want our governments to listen to us. That we want policies on sustainable development that are based around our way of thinking. We are offering lots of alternatives that we actually have and have been carrying forward from our territories. We can mention them. A lot of them have to do with traditional medicine. And all of the different herbs that we use, the plants that we use, and all of that wisdom. We want to continue practicing that. We don't want to have to be adapting constantly to this extractivist model and the model of monocultures because food sovereignty has to do with economic development, that the model of economic development that states are promoting. So that's what we say to governments, and that's what we want to be able to do. At these climate conferences, we want there to be adequate and environmentally friendly policies. We want policies that respect our territories, and we want to develop in our own way. We want to carry out the style of productive agriculture that we have. And for me, I can say that this issue of food sovereignty is not just about having competent authorities who can carry out proper policy, but also about speaking and actually doing what we say. It's not just about the words. Of course, we need to hear the words. We need to hear these discussions, but we also need to put into practice and put in action the framework of respect for rights, collective rights, and all of the rights that are needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wilma, and thank you so much for joining us from Bolivia and the incredible work that you're doing and leading. And I so resonate with your final comment around, we need these discussions, but we also need to be in action. And I know for a lot of my farming friends, when I visit, it's always about, put the tool in the hand, go out into the garden. We can talk and work at the same time. So thank you for bringing that forward and the need for that discussion with our governments about action in this field. Thank you so much. And with that, I'd love to now show the video we talked about and then hand the floor to Monique.
At the end of the Mississippi River, there is a place, the Shada, called Bolbuncha, place of many tongues, a place of many languages, known better as the global port city colonizers rebranded as New Orleans, where a crossroads of waterways provides access to sites of sacred trade, stewarded by the ancestors of these lands and waters. Generations have been weathering discrimination, land grabs, hurricanes, oil spill disasters, and the catastrophic side effects of man's manipulations, flooding our ways of life. Our intertribal alliance, Oklahina Ikish Holo, People of the Sacred Medicine Trail, is working to reestablish old trade routes and networks, adapting and co-designing paths for tradeways for the future, ways to exchange medicine, food, and skills to support biodiversity and sovereignty.
This is a really exciting project that is rising up like a shining light out of one of the most polluted areas in all of Turtle Island, of all of the United States, an area that has been called Cancer Alley because of how much fossil fuel pollution is in this part of the United States, and instead show a place of regeneration and healing led by Indigenous farmers who are building community, sharing stories of the land that are lifting up a very different vision of how we can move forward in this time of great transformation where we have a need to be able to live with each other in the land in a very different way.
We believe that it is crucial for us to protect and reclaim our relationships with our sacred homelands and waters in order to restore the natural balance, so the intelligence of the system can be respected for our communities to survive in deep collaboration with the nature, like our grandmothers before us, preparing for the unknown by putting our hands in the ground and our hearts into the work needed to strengthen decentralized systems of support, from mutual aid to intentional investment in building circular economies.
I think as we look at the multiple crises of the climate crisis and environmental degradation and colonization and environmental racism, that one of the most important things that we could be doing is to really support food sovereignty programs and food security, a way to really ensure cultural survival and cultural practices as we see storytelling taking place, and the story of the seeds and the story of the communities and all these different peoples that came together on these trade routes. When we talk about what we're going to do about the climate crisis, what are we going to do about colonization, what are we going to do about respecting Indigenous peoples and Indigenous peoples' rights, this is a response.
Our gardeners are on a journey together, collectively learning and sharing skills, hosting workshops on a spectrum of topics, from composting to multimedia storytelling to medicine making, seed harvesting, and more. The Oklahina Ikish Holo network of gardens connect us to each other, to traditional territories, to the places we call home, to the earth, and to the planetary work that is so urgently needed. But we know the plants carry the lessons to help us face the intersectional toxic challenges of injustices tied to colonial practices, perpetuated by multinational petrochemical corporations fueling the climate crisis. We are Houma, Shata, Osage, Lakota, Muskogee, Eastern Siouan, Sichungu Lakota, and Creole, femme and non-binary gardeners, seeding and growing and building across the Gulf South to defend and protect and to restore our lands and waters in the Mississippi River Delta and within the ancestral territories of the Shada and Muskogee.
And it's one of the ways that we begin to really honor the call from Indigenous peoples for land back, for rematriation of the land. And the dream of this project is a 7th generation project that will go on for many, many generations.
And the floor is yours, Monique. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Osprey. I'm super honored to be on this panel and have really been inspired by all the words that have been shared, and yeah, feeling emotional as we are all over the planet, and these are incredibly hard times for all the living beings. I'm here on the edge of the Atchafalaya Mississippi River Basin. I'm on the western edge, where the swamp meets the tall prairies that used to grow here, that I'm trying to help be a good steward and reseed. As we know, carbon sequestration does not only have to entail these dirty pipelines of carbon that are being pushed through territories, and injecting dirty extracted materials beneath us, which is a false solution that has been on the table here in so-called South Louisiana. So I'm at the very end of the Mississippi River, and where I come from, my home is about 2.5 hours south of here, in a place called St. Bernard, also known as Terre Gaillarde. Terre Gaillarde means land full of life. And I've been really leaning into that. Some people say that, you know, where I live is Cancer Alley, and that is because we have 200 plus facilities that line the Mississippi River banks from our state capital, which is called Baton Rouge or Itioma, all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, which of course is connected to all the oceans of the world. I recently learned that sea level rise is happening faster in the Gulf of Mexico because of the loop current, which is stalling out, but we're losing land here at one of the fastest rates on the planet. The statistic, which is maybe a little oversimplified, but easy for us to get our heads around what's really happening here, which is that every 90 minutes a football field is lost from our coast. And that a landmass the size of the state of Delaware, which is not a very big state, but it is a state, has been lost since the 1930s. And there's lots of reasons why, but just to think about how quickly our lives have adapted and changed, right, to technology, to being on Zoom, to putting gasoline in our cars, and that we haven't always lived this way. And one of the reasons why my homelands are called Cancer Alley is because we have all of these petrochemical facilities, which a number of them are producing petrochemical fertilizers, which are shipped upriver and all across the world and used in these monoculture farms. And then that runoff, which has tons of nitrogen in it, ends up in our water. And I just want to recognize that as important as having access to land is, we have to remember that our waters, that we are part of the water cycle ourselves, you know, that we're carrying this water within us, that we need the water to be clean for us and for all the living beings, and for the climate to you know, the ultimate equalizer of the climate is our oceans. So I know some of us are maybe further away from the oceans than others, but what the health of the ocean means to the health of all living beings. And so I'm really fascinated with being a person that comes from this in-between place. You know, it's in between land and not really land at all, and lots of water sometimes, and salt and fresh, and how these are the most vulnerable places. And they're the places that have the most biodiversity. And so just want to echo from the panel before our panel that diversity, cultural and biodiversity, are so incredibly important, and that places like the Mississippi River Delta help to steward that. And so I've been honored to be part of, as we just watched, the Oklahina Ikisholo network of Indigenous gardeners. Some of us are on grounds that are on higher lands. I'm sitting on top of 26 feet here, which is like a baby mountain in South Louisiana. As we know that you cannot run from climate change, but we do need safe places to retreat to, that our plants need safe places to retreat to as our lands are disappearing. And so there's also this initiative to find ways to remain and reclaim, knowing that what we have inherited is not our fault, and that home is a place that we have a right to. And so knowing we may have to retreat and return, knowing that we have been retreating and returning. We're coming up on the 20-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and that really was a global these man-made protection, which the Army Corps of Engineers does not call it protection, it's called risk reduction, because they cannot promise protection. But our ultimate protection is each other and the nature. I mean, the more I learn about all the ugly in the world, the more I have also been schooled and challenged and enlightened by the intelligence of nature and of being in community. And so I'm incredibly grateful to my sisters and folks who I've been able to collaborate with, building gardens, building out a safe place for us to retreat to here in a place called Prairie des Femmes, Women's Prairie, and also building a nani, a mound, for the first time in hundreds of years, in the city of New Orleans, and holding that space, Bolbuncha, place of many languages or place of many tongues, as a neutral ground mound where we are seeding a medicine wheel garden and finding ways to connect, and to learn and to be and to grow with each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Monique, for your powerful leadership. It's such an honor to be able to work together. And you know, I love the power and strength of the collective in being in a place that has had so much harm, and being able to grow food there and reclaim land and rematriate land, and to really show a completely different vision for the Gulf South. I just think it's extraordinary what you all are doing. So thank you so much for joining us. And I would love now to hand the floor to Yasso. Yasso, you have the floor. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Horche, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from Thakali Nation on behalf of indigenous peoples, indigenous women and girls from Nepal. Thank you, WECAN, for giving me the opportunity. It's a great honor to be here with you all. And I'm Yasso Bhattachan from Nepal, and I am Vice Chair to National Indigenous Women Forum, and one of the founding member and now advisor to National Indigenous Women Federation. And let me begin with the food sovereignty means to, and how food sovereignty builds a healthy and thriving future for our Chepang indigenous sisters and brothers, who are one of the 59 formally recognized highly marginalized indigenous peoples of Nepal. Chepang worship churi tree. Churi fruit is called butter fruit in English. It's not just only a wild food and food security. Fruit tree comprise a part of a collective ways of life, interconnected and interdependent. Churi butterfruit is a source of main food and drink such as fruit, juice, ghee, clarified butter, honey. Chomero is in Nepali, bat, alcohol for consumption, rituals and festivals, also used as fodders, fertilizer, organic plate, medicine, oil for lighting, lamp, trap insect, and make wooden furniture, firewood, cosmetic, daughter's property, spiritual, religious, and a source of income for the women and girls. It is a part of the ritual, spiritual, land, territory, and resources. Marriage, family, kingship, and contributes enrich forest, environment, and ecology. Thus, Churi, bat, and Chepang are interconnected and interdependent. Hence, Churi is a form of symbol of Chepang collective identity. Chepang is just an example. It applies to all indigenous peoples of Nepal and around the world. And indigenous people, food sovereignty is restoring indigenous right and identity along with mainstreaming food sovereignty, food security. The right to healthy and cultural appropriate food produce through ecological sound and sustainable method and rights to define food and agriculture system. Indigenous peoples considered food sovereignty as a right of indigenous people to choose, cultivate, and preserve one's own collective food practice and values intimately tied to nature. Indigenous food sovereignty is rooted in full respect for Mother Earth, not going against nature, self-determination with autonomy and customary self-government system and customary law. Indigenous knowledge, skill, technology, and practices, and indigenous knowledge, ecological justice, environment justice, climate justice, and gender justice. Sustainable livelihood, lifestyle, and cultural survival. In indigenous food sovereignty, we have community ownership, traditional food knowledge, in cultural food, native seeds, environmental sustainability. Food sovereignty and food autonomy are interconnected and interdependent, so as indigenous food system environmental sustainability is interconnected and interdependent. Food is not only human right, but also the collective right and spiritual and cultural rights for indigenous peoples. Indigenous food production is not destructive to the environment. Indigenous peoples' customary self-governance system, customary laws, customary knowledge preserves global biodiversity and make food and life sustainable. Indigenous people food system are sustainable and resilient. Indigenous food system can contribute to the challenges of climate change. Indigenous food sovereignty immensely contribute for the healthy and thriving future, not only for indigenous people, but for all the human beings, non-human beings, and non-living things. Indigenous food sovereignty depends on sovereignty of indigenous land, territory, and resources, but land grabbing of indigenous people's ancestral land in the name of aggression, fortress model of conservation, and in the name of just transition, indigenous food sovereignty is in crisis. Indigenous food sovereignty is in crisis, so return the grab land to indigenous people, restoration of self-determination, full respect of indigenous people, custodianship of biodiversity, nature, revitalization of indigenous customary self-government and customary law and knowledge and practices in the first step toward indigenous sovereignty, followed by food sovereignty of all, building a healthy and thriving future. To conclude, we human beings have to choose between healthy, thriving future and extinction. We all, including COP30 and beyond, must choose the first, that is healthy and thriving future, because indigenous food sovereignty is equivalent to food justice. If there is no indigenous food sovereignty, there is no food justice. If there is no food justice, there is no climate justice. And if there is no climate justice, there won't be ecological justice, environment justice, gender justice, indigenous justice, cultural survival, and self-determination. And if there is no climate justice, there is no healthy and thriving future. Denial of healthy and thriving future leads to our extinction of humanity, extinction of all living beings. There is no choice. The choice is ours. So collectively, we can make a difference. Individually, we cannot. And collectively, we can rise, we can shine, and we can do everything in the world. Thank you, Horche.
Thank you so much, Yasso. Really beautiful to hear your wisdom and calling things out for exactly as they are. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the work that you're doing in your leadership. We have a very squeaky short amount of time before our next panel, and I would like to see if we could just get really just closing words from everyone. If we could just think about like a 30-second intervention you want to have, maybe reflection from what was already said, or just the message that you want us all to walk away from this session with. Just about a 30-second intervention would be awesome. If the speakers were up to that, I'd appreciate it. It's such a rich conversation. And we'd start with you, Kahea, if you would please enter the conversation again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again so much for having me, and to all the other speakers. I'm so inspired and so glad that your presence and your leadership is in this movement. I've been thinking a lot lately about what creates impact and where people, like right now, there's been so much focus on these big levers of change in the world, like, you know, elections, policies, corporate pledges. And yet I think, I believe in, and I think we know that these things matter and they're incredibly important. And also that change, really sustainable change, rarely starts from the top. And one of our challenges is how to get more people to understand that and to really support at the grassroots local level. And I think our work in food sovereignty is one of the places where that's really, really visible, because so much of everything we've talked about is about local foodways, local food systems, our indigenous ways of knowing. And I think that's where we continue to do everything that you've all been doing, that we've all been doing, to lean in a bit more, because this is where we can really show the world, like, if we can get this slice right, if we can really invest in our local food systems, return to like, or reimagine with our indigenous ways of knowing what's next, what the future looks like, then I think that'll help us all as a global society reimagine what all of these failing systems can look like in the world if we turn it over to like grassroots solutions. So those are kind of my closing thoughts, is just, I loved all of just the local solutions that everyone is bringing forth. And I really believe that this is what is going to move the needle on really so many of the things, the crises that our world faces. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Kahea. Very, very well said. Couldn't agree with you more. And now we'll go to Mariann. And again, I kindly, gently ask short because we have a whole nother set of panelists. So thank you so much for Mariann for your closing comment.
I just want to say thanks to everyone. And everybody has said all that needs to be said. Damage in one environment is damage to all of us. Injury to one is injury to all. And the planet will not go to courts. We have to speak with the planet. Just think the earth, if it's your mother, would you want it to be trampled upon? Would you want your mother to be contaminated? So we have to keep on speaking. We have to keep on this fight until food sovereignty is achieved, until environmental justice is achieved, until all our issues we advocate for, we get them. But I'm so happy to have everyone in this room. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for coming up. Thank you for all that you do. More power, solidarity, aluta continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariann, for your good words and your leadership and all the work that you're doing. Monique?
Yeah, I think that what I just want to leave folks with is something that I've been meditating on, which is spirit of needing safe places to be, just the need for ritual real estate and places to return to. And I think that when you're living with the nature and in the seasons, like there are things you cannot ignore. And there's a lot to learn there as we are adapting in these times. So sending you all best wishes from these bottomlands to your homelands, and incredibly grateful. Thank you, WECAN.
Thank you so much, Monique, for your leadership and for all that you bring to the movement and to your community. It's so, so important. And now we can hear from Wilma, if you have a short closing comment, if you're still with us, Wilma. We might have lost her from Bolivia. Yasso, would you like to make a final comment, and then we'll close the session?
World 80% biodiversity is protected and preserved by 5% indigenous peoples and indigenous women. So what we need to do is that we need to divide it, we will shrink and lose. Collectively, we can make united and solidarity. Collectively, we can win. And also in every climate action program and policy, indigenous peoples need to put in center, because if there is no justice to indigenous people, there won't be any justice in the world. And without the indigenous knowledge, cosmovision, and indigenous knowledge, practice, technology, the world would not be a better place to live. So we need to make Mother Earth happy and healthy. It's in our hand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yasso. I think that's a beautiful note to end on. Let's make Mother Earth happy. I love that. Thank you for a beautiful session to all the presenters and the beautiful, powerful, strong work you're doing. It is resistance, it is resilience, it is building the future. Thank you very much.